Hi everyone, this is Miss P, and today we're going to practice dividing fractions, specifically dividing a mixed number by a fraction. Let's start practicing dividing a mixed number by a fraction using the example of 3 3/5 divided by 1/2. When you're working with dividing fractions, but one of the numbers in your problem is a mixed number, the best thing to do is convert that mixed number into an improper fraction, or a fraction greater than 1, and then you'll have two fractions to work with. So in this case, the first number, 3 3/5, is a mixed number. So let's convert it to an improper fraction. Starting with the denominator of 5, we multiply that by the whole number 3. 5 times 3 equals 15. And then that number 15, we add the numerator to that. So 15 plus 3 is 18. That becomes our new numerator. We keep the denominator of 5. So our converted improper fraction is 18/5. We can pull the rest of the problem down as is. And now that we have two simple fractions that we're working with, 18/5 divided by 1/2, we can go back to the three steps that we always use when dividing fractions. Keep, change, flip. So let's go ahead and go through those steps. First, we're going to keep the fraction of 18/5 the same. Next, we'll change the operation of division to the opposite operation of multiplication. And finally, we will flip the fraction of 1/2 to its reciprocal of 2/1. Now that we've gone through those steps, we can go ahead and multiply across. 18 times 2 equals 36, and 5 times 1 equals 5. You'll probably notice that our answer here is an improper fraction, or a fraction greater than 1. So let's go ahead and simplify 36/5 into a mixed or whole number. Starting with our numerator of 36 and dividing it by our denominator of 5. 36 divided by 5, well, the closest whole number it comes to is 7. 5 times 7 equals 35. So we know that 35/5 is equal to 7 wholes. So if we take away that 35, we have 1 left over as a remainder, and we'll carry over our denominator of 5. So 36/5 converts to the mixed number of 7 1/5. Now that we have the most simplified version of the answer there, we can apply that back to our original problem to determine that 3 3/5 divided by 1/2 is equal to 7 1/5. Let's try using these same steps to solve one more problem. This example, 2 2/3 divided by 5/6, is also an example of a mixed number divided by a fraction. So before we do anything else, let's convert that mixed number to an improper fraction. Starting with our denominator of 3, we multiply it by the whole number. 3 times 2 equals 6. And then we add the numerator to that. 6 plus 2 is 8. And that gives us our new numerator, 8. And then we're going to carry over that same denominator of thirds, 8/3. We can bring down the rest of the problem as is. And now that we have a simple fraction divided by a simple fraction, we can apply the three steps that we apply to any division of fraction problem: keep, change, flip. First, we're going to keep the first fraction in the problem, 8/3. Next, we're going to change the operation. Division becomes the opposite operation of multiplication. And lastly, we will flip the second fraction here to its reciprocal. 5/6 becomes 6/5. There are a few ways that we can solve this. In looking at this multiplication of fractions problem, 8/3 times 6/5, you might notice that there is an opportunity for cancellation in this problem. And what that means is if you look across diagonally, for example, this numerator with this denominator, or this denominator with this numerator, if those numbers have a common factor, you can simplify those numbers before you even begin the multiplication. In this case, 3 and 6 share the common factor of 3. Because of that, before we even begin the problem, we can simplify each of these digits by dividing them by the common factor of 3. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 6 divided by 3 is 2. We can then multiply across using simpler numbers, starting with the numerators. 8 times 2 equals 16, and the denominators. 1 times 5 equals 5. Here we have a fraction greater than 1, or an improper fraction of 16/5. Our numerator is bigger than our denominator, which we don't like for a final answer. So we can simplify this into a mixed number or whole number by taking the numerator of 16 and dividing it by 5. How many groups of 5 fit in 16? 16 is divided into 5 3 times with a remainder of 1. Carrying over our denominator of 5, it gives us a final answer of 3 1/5, which we can apply back to our original problem. 2 2/3 divided by 5/6 equals 3 1/5. Now, just to give you an idea, if we had not canceled out the 3 and the 6, if we had not gone through that process before we multiplied, in the end, we would have gotten the same number. Let me show you what that would look like. Taking the fractions of 8/3 times 6/5, we could have multiplied across the numerators. 8 times 6 equals 48, and then the denominators. 3 times 5 equals 15. We could have taken this fraction of 48/5 and simplified it into a mixed number. 48 divided by 15 would have given us 3, because 15 times 3 equals 45, and then a remainder of 3 here, and the denominator of 15. But then if you notice this fraction here, 3/15 is not simplified. The numbers 3 and 15 share a common factor of 3. So we could simplify this further by dividing both the numerator and the denominator by 3. So keeping our whole number of 3 here, 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 15 divided by 3 is 5. As you can see, the final answer after simplifying in that way is 3 1/5. And so we get to the same answer using 2 different strategies. Overall, remember that when you're dividing a mixed number by a fraction, you should convert the mixed number to a fraction greater than 1, or an improper fraction, and then go through the 3 steps we can always use when dividing a mixed number: keep, change, and flip. Make sure to look out for opportunities for cancellation when you're multiplying fractions, and always simplify your final answer.